Now, David Dunn is a professor of international politics at the University of Birmingham. Professor, thanks so much for your time. The judge has already indicated that jail time is unlikely. So does this case actually matter to Donald Trump?
Yes, it matters to him hugely in terms of his reputation, and he has been consistently calling for these charges to be thrown out. In fact, one of the reasons why this hearing has been scheduled at this date is that he complained that that would hang over him over the next 4 years and interrupt his concentration as president. So the judge said, fine, we'll do it now then. And it matters also to the judge. The judge is very keen to show that the rule of law in America still applies, that actually he has been found guilty of 34 felonies, and therefore the will of the jury, which was unanimous, should be seen to prevail, and the justice prevail, and that he is found guilty and given a sentence, a token sentence, for the crimes that he has been found guilty of. So Trump is furious. The judge is keen to hold the rule of law. It will be interesting to see whether actually Trump is able to actually postpone this hearing or whether he will appeal the sentence. But there is an attempt to have a legal reckoning in this interregnum between the election and him being sworn in as president on the 20th.
In other developments in the run-up to the inauguration on the 20th, on Friday, Mike Johnson re-elected House Speaker. However, there is concern among some Republican representatives that he might not be able to further Trump's agenda. Could you explain why this role of Speaker is so crucial for Trump's agenda?
Well, the Speaker of the House really does manage the whole legislative program of a new administration and is responsible for getting it through Congress. And what we have is the new Congress, when it's sworn in January, has an even thinner majority than the one that's in there just now. And there are many people in that Republican majority are unhappy with aspects of the agenda that Trump is putting forward. Trump wants to extend the tax cuts that he put forward last time he was in office, which will cost $4 trillion and favour mostly the rich. What that is likely to do is increase America's deficit, and there are many fiscally conservative Americans are very concerned about that. Add to that there are many aspects of the agenda that are very radical. The very radical deportation plans, the trade policy that are very confrontational, plans to cut the federal budget, which will mean cutting into programs that are dearly popular among many of the American people, which could have electoral effects for members of Congress. So it's by far from clear whether this very radical agenda across a whole variety of issues will get the support, even within the Republican Party, to get the majority needed to actually get them through Congress. And the Speaker's role is crucial in this, and many regard him as ineffectual, regard him as captured by Trump, and they are not entirely happy with him or supportive of his leadership. So what we're likely to see, despite the fact that Trump has the White House and both houses of Congress and a quiescent Supreme Court, we're likely to see a very fractious set of politics in the next 4 years, or let's say in the next 2 years, as Trump tries to push through what are controversial and radical policies.
At the same time, Trump's been having many meetings at his Mar-a-Lago home. What is his agenda in this period running up to his inauguration? What's he trying to do you think?
Well, Trump is very keen to avoid what happened last time round, when he was sworn in with very little clear idea of what to do or what agenda to follow, and he was largely reacted and really unfamiliar with the ways of Washington. So this time round, he's actually trying to be thoroughly prepared across a range of issues. He's trying to get as many people into positions of authority who are loyal to him as their first priority, to ensure that he doesn't get blocked on all the policy changes he wants to do. So, as I say, there's a radical agenda there. He also has indicated that he's quite keen to actually effect retribution on his political enemies, and there are plans to do that as part of his new administration coming in from January the 20th. So he plans to hit the ground running. He wants to actually make sure that he makes a whole flurry of announcements as soon as he's back into the White House, and he wants to do that across a range of issues, so that the activity in Mar-a-Lago has been very frenetic. There have been many people trying to lobby him in Florida to make sure that their agenda is pursued. This includes business interests, international interlocutors. Many foreign powers have sent representatives down there, diplomats down there, to talk to him in his winter White House, as it were, in order to try and influence what he does when he comes into office. Because there is a huge amount at stake, not just in terms of all the domestic things I've talked about, but also in terms of actually the future of relations with Russia and Ukraine, the future of the Middle East, not least of which is the future of Syria, which is far from clear, that what happens with Iran, and whether Israel gets to go ahead to attack Iran if it moves towards a nuclear weapon capability, and of course more broadly in international trade policy, and of course a subset of that is also China, and with that China and the relationship to Taiwan. So there are many, many issues that Trump will have to face as president. It's far from clear what the positions will be on all of those issues, given that Trump is keen to be a disruptor, is keen to actually impose his own agenda and particular style on those relationships, and therefore we're in for a fairly frenetic period as we enter the White House from January onwards, as those policy positions are outlined, and whether they are successful both in Congress and in terms of the interlocutors that they are aimed at as part of that wider policy. For example, we're already seeing today the Prime Minister of Honduras saying that they will kick out the American base there if the Americans try to deport Honduran and other Latin American citizens who are in America allegedly illegally. So I think we're in for a exciting time in terms of the news agenda, in terms of the political agenda, because this administration is not business as usual.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for your time, David Dunn, Professor of International Politics at the University of Birmingham.